No one saw this coming. It's going to be a big freaking deal. Press conference tomorrow at MSG, 1 p.m. It's going to be lit, dare I say. The opposite of mid. I don't know what the opposite of mid is, but I think it's a great thing if you call it lit, so it's going to be lit. Here's Jake Paul, kind enough to join us. Hello, Jake. How are you? Thanks, man. Thank you for doing this. I appreciate it. You're in transit. Are you in New York? No, I see some palm trees there. That's definitely not New York.
No, I'm in Puerto Rico. I'm on my way to New York right now, actually.
Okay, for the big press conference tomorrow, 1 p.m. MSG. It's going down. You and Rahman going to meet again. So let's obviously I'm going to ask a few things about Tommy in a moment, but I want to start with Hasim because this is the task at hand here. I've just been defending you to the world. I don't know if you know this. I take a lot of bullets on your behalf, Jake, and no problem. It's all good. But we've just been talking about the fight. I'm very excited about it. That footage that you dropped upon announcing the fight, when was that? What's the time frame of that footage when you sparred him?
That was before the Nate Robinson fight, so like roughly 2 years ago. And yeah, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. The kid was saying, "You'll never be a professional fighter. You know, I'm going to beat your ass. You're a bitch." Like saying all of this stuff to me during our sparring session. "You're just a YouTuber. You suck, blah, blah, blah." So yeah, I've been waiting for this moment, man, to come back and get revenge on him.
Was it just one sparring session with him or multiple?
It was just one. And it was intense, man. I'm not gonna lie. And I think, you know, over the past 2 years, we'll see who became the better fighter. You know, he was saying, "You'll never be a professional fighter. You'll never be this." And all of these guys, you know, all the people, all of my critics, it's great motivation for me. I use it against them. You know, it fuels me in the gym. And so now, 2 years later, we will actually get to see who the professional fighter is.
Who won that sparring match?
It was close, man. Like, it was a war. That was right when I started fighting. You know, that was before the Nate Robinson fight even. And he was way more experienced than I was at the time. So if anything, yeah, he got the better of me. I don't even, it doesn't matter to admit that because I know what I'm capable of now. And I know I'm going to be able to come in and beat him 2 years later because I guarantee you I've worked harder over the past 2 years than he has.
Have you kept in contact with him? Like when all this went down, was that the first time you spoke to him in the last 2 years, or would he pop up in your DMs, talk to you, all this stuff? Oh,
I haven't spoke to him since. I still haven't spoke to him. You know, everything that you see of us, all of our communication is online, and our managers are the ones who are talking. But all the trolling and stuff, that's the only communication I've had with them.
Once you realized that Tommy was out, can you take us into the decision-making process? I mean, like, you've got this big canvas, right? You could go in a million different directions because of your background, who you are. How do you ultimately end up with Hasim Rahman, who wasn't really being discussed, like he wasn't in your orbit before all this came out? So how do you end up there?
There's actually not that big of a canvas, right? Because you have to think who has a name and who is a professional boxer, who has a good record, and that eliminates 99.9% of people. And so we're just like spitballing, you know, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. Was on that list. Then we found out he was in rehab or some shit. Then there wasn't really anyone else. You know, I want Anderson Silva. I want these guys. But first, I need to check off the list of professional boxer. I want a professional boxer. I need a professional boxer. Because that's been the number one criticism is fight a real boxer. Okay, here we go. He has a name. He's big. He's 12-1, and he's still not old. You know, like I don't want to beat someone who's old and everyone's like, "Oh, you just beat him because he's old." So this guy's in his prime. He's bigger than me. He's got a good record. He's more experienced than me. He switches southpaw, you know, which is another big risk and another big like task and challenge that I'm taking on, again, going up against my first southpaw. So there's just like a lot of factors here that make this a intense and good fight and a really tough matchup.
Did you ever seriously consider Anderson?
No, 100%. I think that fight still happens at some point, but you know, I just didn't want to knock out another old MMA guy, and then people are just like, "Oh, we don't want to see it." After I beat a professional boxer August 6th, then I'll be able to do whatever I want and fight whoever I want without any criticism.
In the midst of this whole thing of whether you're going to fight Tommy or not, the Nate Diaz stuff starts to ramp up again. He even tweets a video of you knocking out Tyron Woodley, asking for his release. Dana White even comes out and says, yeah, I think that fight makes sense. Was there ever any, discussion, door opening, anything behind the scenes in terms of trying to make that fight finally happen?
There wasn't. The ball is in Dana's court. I've said that I will fight Nate Diaz in the UFC for free. All Dana White has to do is raise the fighter minimum from $12,000 to $50,000 and give the fighters long-term health care. And I'll fight Nate Diaz for free as his last fight in the UFC contract. Made that offer to no avail. And that's that. That's really where things stand. I think that fight could happen eventually if he gets out of his UFC contract. I would love to box him. Nate wants that to happen, but obviously Dana White is, in control of all of these guys and won't let them out of his contract.
When you threw that out there, did they kick the can at all? Did they reach out? Did they try to take the temperature to see if, it's quite the offer to fight for free. Insane stuff. Was there any sort of, let's see if this is for real, anything behind, a text, something?
Nah, nothing. They don't want that. They want to avoid, however they can, to pay their fighters. That's the last thing that they want to do. They're sharks, and they're taking advantage of these poor UFC fighters, and it sucks. But they probably won't ever pay them at this rate unless more and more fighters continue to speak up. But none of them really do. Really, Francis Ngannou is really the only one who's speaking up about it recently and has had the balls to do so because everyone's afraid of getting benched. So really, I'm the only one that's still speaking up about it and trying to do anything to make change. And I can't really make change by myself.
Considering that, have you taken your foot off that gas pedal a little bit? Like, this has happened in the past. People have tried to start associations, unions. They see no one speaks up, and then they kind of give up. Since you're not feeling any kind of reciprocation, are you going to start to lay off that?
No, my best on everything I can and still continue to speak up about it because eventually there's gonna be change. It just might take a couple of years longer. But yeah, it's a long process and it's not easy. And, you need to build up the power as a whole. But the problem is that these fighters are selfish. They're not smart enough to really band together to create a union or to create a singular force that, Dana White couldn't mess with or these boxing promoters couldn't mess with. These fighters don't really understand things. It's sad to see. So can't really do it by myself.
By the way, as of right this moment, to the best of my knowledge, Nate hasn't re-signed. He has one fight left. Are you hoping that he doesn't go back so that maybe end of the year or early next year you can have that fight?
Yeah, look, I'm hoping, because none of these guys actually really want to fight me is what I'm coming to find out. Some exclusive news for you, Ariel. Hasim Rahman Jr. actually right now is trying to renegotiate his contract. So he signed a contract last week for 10 times more than he's ever been paid for any one of his fights. And now, boom, fast forward 1 week, he's trying to renegotiate. He's trying to suck more money out of the fight. He's trying to do anything he can to claw and make the money because I think he realizes, the consequences of what might happen. I think he's actually scared to fight me. A lot of these guys are excited by the money at first. And then when it actually comes time to start training and getting into camp and doing all of these things, they all chicken out. So who knows if this fight's even going to happen at this point? Because we're not going to pay him more money. He's not worth it. He has a name, but he doesn't have a massive name. So it's unfortunate, man. And that's, I guess going back to your point, why I hope that Nate Diaz can get out of his contract, because I believe Nate Diaz will actually fight me and isn't afraid like most of these professional boxers.
Wait a second. So is there a chance, like in the back of your mind right now, are you worried that he doesn't show up tomorrow?
100%. Yeah.
What?
Yep.
Is he threatening that?
Yeah, I think his team is. And we don't give a fuck. Like, I'm not paying the guy more. I'm tired of these guys trying to overprice themselves. We're paying him 10 times more than he's ever made, and now he's trying to ask for 30 times more than what he's ever made all of the sudden. But there's a signed contract already. He already signed the dotted line, and now he's trying to go back and be like, well, I'm not going to fight. And it's tough because he could just, fake an injury or say his hand is broken or some shit, or whatever. We saw Tommy Fury do it with the visa thing. There's so many excuses in boxing to get out of things. So, there is a worry that he might not even show up tomorrow and that this fight might not actually even happen.
Oh, and what's the reason? Like, why is he saying he wants to renegotiate?
He just wants more money. That's it.
There's no reason for it? He's not saying because...
No reason. Just like there's these new promoters that all of a sudden came in out of nowhere. And they're like, hey, we want 30 times more money, whatever. And it's these promoters who were involved with his career at some point. And they basically told Hasim, no, you should be getting paid more. We're not doing this fight unless you're getting paid more. So yeah, pretty unfortunate. But it just to show that these guys, they want to fight me until it's time to actually fight me. They all want the money, and then they're like, whoa, I need more money. I need more money. You see Tommy Fury do it. Even Tommy's dad was like, well, come fight us in the UK for less money. And then I tweet him. I'm like, all right, I'll give you $500K to fight me. And Tommy's like, oh, we won't even get out of bid for $400K. But you just said you'd fight me for less money. So it's just a reoccurring theme. And I think this is why boxing, was such a dying sport before I came into it and literally saved the whole entire sport, basically single-handedly, along with some other heavyweights and some lightweights. But mostly because of me, boxing was saved. And I'm starting to realize what the problem was. It's all of these fucking fitters who want to man up and make these fights happen. That's why you don't see the biggest. That's why fucking Tyson Fury's afraid to fight Joshua. Tyson Fury's afraid to fight Usyk. Why hasn't Gervonta and Devin Haney fought? Why hasn't Gervonta and Ryan Garcia fought? Why aren't these big fights happening? Because one of the parties is scared. Who knows which party it is? But this is why boxing is dying, is because these fights aren't mandatory. No one can force them to do these fights like they can in the UFC. So that's why I give the UFC props. That's why I give Dana White props. But it pisses me off because I just want to get into the ring and do my fucking job, put on a show for the fans, and I just can't do it.
Is there a backup to the backup now? Is there another guy that you can tap if Hasim pulls out?
Nah. If Hasim pulls out, we just won't do the event. I'm tired of switching opponents. There's really no other names. We'll have to reschedule, and it's too last minute to switch out another opponent. The tickets, and it creates so many complications for refunds, and it's just a fucking nightmare and a pain in the ass at this point. And it's too late to give someone a fair amount of time to train. I want someone in there who's going to give me a challenge. So if we called someone up 3 weeks before and we're like, hey, we got the fight in 3 weeks, then there could be the excuse, well, they only had a couple of weeks to train. It wasn't a fair fight, blah, blah, blah. So, this is the last resort. Hopefully it comes through, and we're not paying him more. So we'll see what decision he makes. But it's just really unfortunate. It pisses me off, man. It really fucking irks me because it's so crazy how the Disney Channel everyday bro fucking kid is down to fight, but no one else is.
If I would have spoken, I think it's going to happen. I'm going to put out the good vibes. I think it's going to happen. I think he comes to the table and figures it out. And this will be suicide for him if it doesn't happen. But if I, last August when we spoke in Cleveland, if I would have told you in a year you're going to headline MSG, you're going to co-headline MSG. Nikisa gets very mad when I don't say co-headline MSG with the great Amanda Serrano. And come on, would you have believed that? Or is this a little bit out there for, even this, is this impressing you?
Yeah, at this point, anything is possible. It's just how far I want to take it. I'm trying not to even set limits in my head of what's possible. So if you told me 3 years ago, I would say absolutely not. But if you told me a year ago, I'd be like, yeah, this is very possible. But you know, none of these guys are wanting to really show up, and that's what's upsetting about this. So as cool as it is, I'm not going to be happy about it until August 6th is over and I knock the guy out and on to the next one. That's when we can celebrate and reminisce and be like, yeah, we did it.
One thing that wasn't talked about a lot was the fact that you were a free agent after the second Woodley fight. You ended up going back to Showtime. Ultimately, why did you make that decision?
Well, I think they're just the best in the boxing business. You know, they're the most professional. They put on the best shows, the best events. I have a great relationship with them. And yeah, that's really it. The business deal is great. I love Steven Espinoza. I love the whole entire crew there, the family there, everyone. The all access teams are amazing. Shout out to Patrick. You know, everyone there is just really nice and jolly, and we get along great. So yeah, just excited to be with the best business in boxing.
And is this a multiple fight deal with them?
I don't know if I can speak on that.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Okay. By the way, regarding Tommy, the word was he couldn't come over, the visa stopped at the airport, etc. Then I saw the comments from his dad about being unhappy about the shape that he was in. So now, as we stand here today speaking, what do you believe happened?
I believe exactly what his dad said. I believe that he was out of shape and his dad was like, don't take this fight right now. That's what I truly believe happened, and that he blamed the whole entire thing on not being able to get in because of a visa, which doesn't make any sense because a month earlier he was in Los Angeles on vacation. There's proof of that. There's pictures on his Instagram. And by the way, who knows if he even went to the airport? There's no pictures. He's one of the most famous people in the United Kingdom. He goes through the public airport, the most populated airport, London Heathrow, and there's not a single picture of him there with a fan or anything like that. That seems weird to me. So who knows if he even went to the airport. And then obviously his dad came out and said he wasn't training, he was fat, so I told him not to do the fight. The kid's a chump, bro. The kid's a chump. His own dad stitches on him. His own brother didn't want to put the money in escrow. When his brother made the $1 million bet a couple weeks ago, I was like, all right, let's do it. Bet $1 million. I hit up his lawyer through Nikisa. His lawyer never responded. They didn't put the money into escrow. So basically this family is all talk, all publicity, and he doesn't actually want to fight me.
And so why still even entertain it? Because you're still kind of going back and forth. Oh, UK, like why? Now it's twice that it's fallen through no fault of your own. Why even still entertain it?
For me, I want to knock him the fuck out and make him pay for all of the shit that he's done and put me through and all the money that's been lost trying to put on these events with him. He has to own up to that. He has to pay for that. And at the end of the day, if his promoters put on an event, have to do a show off their event, then I'm down. I'm down to run it. And for me, this is about the legacy and knocking out a Fury and fucking up their whole boxing legacy would be really fun for me.
By the way, speaking of MSG, we last saw you in April. You're alongside Eddie Hearn, one of the greatest nights in the history of boxing. It was incredible. A huge night for MVP, huge night for Matchroom, for everyone involved. And we all thought, all right, this is a shoo-in. They're going to run it back. Maybe MSG, maybe Ireland. Now Amanda's fighting someone else on your card. Eddie was sitting here thinking, saying that he doesn't know if she wants it. What's the truth from your perspective? Why isn't this rematch happening? And why does it seem like it's so far away from happening all of a sudden?
The truth, and the only truth, is the fact that Amanda Serrano has to go back down to 126 pounds to defend her belts and to stay unified as a champion, because otherwise they were going to strip her of her belts if she didn't do this fight right now, right then. So she didn't want to lose all of her belts at 126, waiting for the Katie Taylor rematch. So she's going to unify her belts again, beat this Brenda girl August 6th, and then go and do the rematch with Katie Taylor. That's it. That's bottom line. all of these boxing people are snakes. Eddie Hearn's a snake. He's a typical promoter, grown up in the business. He's a liar as far as I'm concerned. So you get the truth from me. Everyone knows that. So that's the bottom line. She wanted to go unify her belts, so she didn't lose them. So she stayed the 126-pound champ. And then after that, she can go and fight Katie Taylor in the rematch.
So you think the rematch happens eventually?
100%. 100%. There's no reason why it shouldn't. It's going to be even bigger than the last fight. Amanda wants it. Her coach wants it. I want to do it. Nikisa wants to do it. So we're ready. And as soon as she unifies her belts, that's going to be the next conversation on the table.
By the way, even obviously you have the history with Eddie, and then even build up to this fight. Like, okay, he was saying some things. You have the picture on the ring. Now it feels like the relationship has really turned where before it almost felt like two friends poking each other. Now it feels like you actually genuinely don't like him. And I've heard you call him a snake before. You just called him a snake now. It feels like your feelings towards him have changed dramatically. Is that accurate?
Yeah, they have. I started to see his character for who he really was. Time is really the only way you can get to know somebody and understand who they are. You could fool someone the first time you meet them or the first 10 times you meet them. But once you start to spend more and more time around someone, you really get a gauge of who they are and their character. And I have a really good gauge of people because I've met tens of thousands of people. I meet more people than probably 99.9% of the people in the world because of who I am and what I do and how much I travel and so on and so forth. So I have a really good gauge of people and who they are and their heart and all of these things. And, it took me a while to sort of catch on to how Eddie Hearn is and how he acts. And he's very, very two-faced. For example, just to throw something out there, when we made the bet on stage for Amanda Serrano versus Katie Taylor, I think it was like $1 million or something like that. And he was like, "Oh, let's do it. Oh, you only want to bet 500,000. Let's make it $1 million." And I was like, "All right, cool. Let's do it." We shake on it on stage, right? Bet is done, signed, sealed, delivered. And then all of a sudden I get off the stage and 20 minutes later, I hear through the grapevine, like, "Oh no, Eddie doesn't want to actually do the bet. Eddie doesn't want to actually do the bet. Like, let's call it off." And I'm like, "Why? Like, why would we do that? We shook on it on stage. Bet. He doesn't do it. This is not the time right now." And then he came up with a whole elaborate plan to tell the media that we couldn't make the bet because we were promoters or some shit like that, which isn't true. And at the time, I just went along with it. I was like, "All right, whatever. If he doesn't want to do this, whatever, we'll go along with his excuse." But it's just like little things like that where on camera, he's such a different person than he is behind the scenes. And that's just one example. And I just get that from him all the time in many different situations now that I don't need to go into all of them, but that's just like how he is. And that is his character. And he's very conniving. He's a jealous person. And I think he's really jealous of me, right? I'm this new young boxing promoter that came in and is doing it way bigger and better than him, have 20 times his platform. And he's been doing this his whole entire life. His dad's been doing it his whole entire life. And now all of a sudden there's this new kid on the block. He's going to do anything he can to discredit me. So I get this like jealous, manipulative sort of snaky guy coming out of him every single time I'm around him. And I didn't see that until recently. So I'm just keeping my distance and, he's cool for what it is. And we can do business together, and business is business. But as far as being friends and all that shit, fuck that.
I said we have a couple more minutes. You still in transit here? Can I still pepper you with questions, or are we good?
Yeah, no, yeah, I got like 5 more minutes here.
All right, cool. Are we inching closer to Jake Paul, Conor McGregor? I see he's responded on Twitter a couple of times. Do you feel like we are getting closer to it? For a while, it felt like he wasn't responding. Now, a couple of times we've seen it. Do you feel like we are inching closer to this crazy dream actually coming to fruition?
Yeah, for sure. I think for me, fighting a couple more times, continuing to knock some people out, and he has to get active again. You know, who knows when that's going to happen. So I think those two things need to happen. And then at some point it's got to happen. You know, why not? He's a businessman. I'm a businessman. And that's, you know, 75 to $100 million for both of us.
Which one would mean more to you? Like, which impossible dream would mean more, Conor or Canelo?
I think Conor and I would be way more exciting, way more electric. I think we're both, you know, more of a showman than Canelo. So just the press conferences and all the shit talk would be absolutely legendary. It'd be historic, and it would be so entertaining for the fans. It would be riveting. You know, people would be on the edge of their seat salivating to see us fight because of how much promotion going into it that we would both bring.
We like to talk a lot. You know, it comes up with Conor, it comes up with boxers. You reach a certain status, a certain pay scale. It's hard to wake up. You know, I mention the Marvin Hagler line all the time. People make fun of me. Hard to wake up at 4 a.m. when you're, you know, waking up in satin sheets, right? It's hard to wake up to pound the pavement to spar when you're making millions of dollars. You entered this world making that money, and it comes out last year, 45 million, something like that. And you could, at some point, you're like, I don't really, like, I'm 20 something years old. Like, I don't want to get punched in the face. Like, I feel like this is going to make your career a lot shorter. Are you starting to fear that you're losing that fire, that edge? You're making so much money. There's so much money for you to make out there. Even your brother now is in wrestling, and that's no knock on him, but you're not getting punched in the face when you're doing wrestling. Like, are you at all starting to feel what those great boxers have felt in the past? When you make a certain amount of money, it's hard to keep sparring and running in the morning and all that stuff.
No, look, I'm addicted to this shit. Quite literally. It's the weirdest thing in the world, and I feel like I'm just starting. I feel like I'm just starting to catch stride in my ability and my progress. I need to fight. Period. Like, this is who I am. Fighting is me. Jake Paul is fighting, and it's built into my DNA. It makes me alive. I get a fucking hard on in the ring every time I get to spar. And yeah, there's days that are hard. You know, it's the hardest sport in the world for sure. There's some days where, you know, it's not fun and you take your licks. But for right now, I'm just getting warmed up, and the world should be scared. The world should be put on notice, because the ability that I'm creating in the gym right now, and the training I'm going through, and how good I am getting, people should be very scared. And the possibilities are endless, man. I could really take this as far as I want to. And there's no limit, because I have the talent, and I have the mindset, and I have the balls. You know, a lot of people don't have the ability to perform in front of 20,000 people. They get scared when they make that ring walk. Me, I'm the exact opposite. Like, I'm looking forward to the ring walk. I love this fight day more than anything else. So I don't know. I'm just built for this, man.
Two last things. WWE try to get you to team up with your brother or anything like that? I saw you at Mania. Was there any talks of that? You guys as a tag team, a one-off?
Nah, there hasn't been. You know, I can't really risk getting hurt for my boxing career, you know, because obviously the wrestling stuff is very intense and people get injured in that. So for me, it's just not worth the risk right now at this point in my career.
I read on your Instagram, you said that you went on one of those ayahuasca trips in Costa Rica. Sounds like hell. You're throwing up. You're all sweaty, all gross. Did you enjoy it? Be honest. I mean, I feel like everyone feels like they have to say they enjoy it, but why would anyone want to do this? It's a crazy thing.
It is very, very crazy. And yeah, I had a beautiful experience, but also very, very difficult. You know, it's a very hard look into the mirror at oneself, and you know, it brings up a lot of problems and things that you don't like about yourself. But at the same time, it's very, very magical. It's very, very eye-opening, and it makes you appreciate life more. And you know, the shit that happens on it is just beyond words. There's no way to even describe it, but it just shows you how beautiful life is. And I would recommend it to everyone, man. I think if every single person in the world did ayahuasca once a year, there would be so many problems solved in the world, and so there'd be so much change in the world. There'd be so much more peace, so much more understanding. People's egos would, start to dissipate. So it's really just a magical thing, and the throwing up, the sweating, all of that is a part of the amazing journey. And wow, it's life changing, to say the least.
All right, I'll leave it to you, young kids. You're on your way to New York.
I'll bring you. I'm gonna go back and do it next year. If you want to come, I'll invite you.
Yeah, me and you, just us two, or is it like a crew? I mean, is it?
I'm bringing my whole team. It's like 25 people. So if you want to come, I'll.
I got the VIP invite. If Nikisa goes, I go. Is he going?
Okay. I think Nikisa would be afraid, but I'll see.
I appreciate that. Thank you. You're on your way to New York. Press conference tomorrow, 1 p.m. It'll be streamed on the Showtime YouTube, probably your YouTube channel as well, as is usually the case. What's the message to Hasim Rahman? Are you going to see him in 21 hours? What's the message?
Hey, don't fumble the biggest bag of your life, dumbass. I know you're not a very smart guy, but you're literally going to lose all of the fucking money right now. Don't make the wrong decision. Don't let these sharks around you try to negotiate to get more money, because we're not paying you more money. Show up, be a professional boxer, and don't be a bitch. You're nothing like your dad. This might be your moment to become something like your dad. But right now, you've let your dad down in every single thing you've done in your life. And if you fumble this, he's going to be even more disappointed in you. So make it happen and come knock me out August 6th. Otherwise, you're a bitch.
Appreciate it, Jake. Safe travels. I'll see you tomorrow.
Peace out, Ariel.
All right, there he is, Jake Paul. I mean, that was something. And how about that breaking news? Hasim Rahman trying to renegotiate the deal, and hopefully we actually get to see this fight. This is this one intrigues me. This one really intrigues me. I think it should intrigue you as well.